The Senate will come to order. Members, please stand for the prayer. Today's chaplain is Reverend Sarah Morris from Hazel Park United Church of Christ in St. Paul, and following the prayer, please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, Senators. Loving and gracious God, we come to you in this time filled with wonder and grief, anticipation and regret, hope and longing. We come to you as a people wanting more and sighing when only able to do just enough, if that. We come to you in this session marked with rules, procedures, and policies so that our work can be done with fierce belief and deep compassion for a greater good, to serve and to acknowledge that we too are a part of something much bigger than ourselves. As we turn then to our work, may we listen for clarity and speak with precision. May wisdom of opinion and transparency of fact allow for accountability. And may the presence of the Holy guide us in our work rather than in name only. In a season of lengthening days, in a season that pushes us to ponder and reflect, may we recognize unequivocally that God's love does, in fact, surpass all understanding, and that we are instruments of that love in a time such as this. Let us not squander nor snuff out the light of promise. Let us be who you have called us to be, made in an image filled with grace and kindness, for our sake and for the sake of humanity. May it be so. And let the people say, Amen. You're welcome, my pleasure. Good to see you. Take care. Wait a minute. Am I going from your phone?
The Secretary will take the roll.
Senators Abler, Anderson, Bach, Benson, Bigham, Carlson, Chamberlain, Champion, Coleman, Clausen, Swazinski, Dames, Dibble, Jornick, Draheim, Duckworth, Dietzig, Eaton, Eichhorn, Eakin, Fate, Franzen, Friends, Gazelka, Goggin, Herr, Hoffman, Housley, Howe, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Jasinski, Johnson, Johnson, Stewart, Kent, Kiffmeyer, Klein, Coran, Kunish, Lang, Latz, Limmer, Marty, Matthews, McEwen, Miller, Murphy, Nelson, Newman, Newton, Osmic, Pappas, Port, Pratt, Putnam, Rarick, Rest, Rosen, Rude, Senjum, Thomasoni, Torres, Ray, Utke, Weber, Westrom, Uyghur, Wickland.
Pursuant to Rule 14.1, the following members intend to vote under Rule 40.7. Senators Anderson, Carlson, Champion, Clausen, Coleman, Eaton, Eakin, Eaton, Fate, Herr, Ingebrigtsen, Isaacson, Latz, Newman, Newton, Pratt, Rest, Rude, Torres, Ray, and Wickland. A quorum is present. We will begin on the agenda today with the fifth order of business, reports of committees. Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, I move that the committee reports printed in the agenda be adopted with the exception of the reports pertaining to Joint Rule 2.03.
Discussion on the Gazelka motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. We'll move to the sixth order of business, second reading of Senate bills. The Secretary will read the Senate file numbers.
Senate file numbers 1444, 450, and 276.
These Senate files are given their second reading. Next, we'll move to the eighth order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate files. Listed in today's introduction calendar are Senate file numbers 2294 to 2322. 2294 to 2322. These Senate files are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Next, we will move to the ninth order of business, motions and resolutions. We have one additional author's motion to be read by the Secretary.
Senator Newman moves that the name of Senator Jasinski be added as co-author to Senate file number 1364.
We will take the author's motions listed in the agenda in addition to the one read by the secretary as one motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. We have a couple authors' motions to be introduced by the authors. First is Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that Senate File number 1798 be withdrawn from the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources Policy and Legacy Finance and re-referred to the Committee on Environment and Natural Resources Finance.
Senator Dibble, please confirm that this is your bill and that you have approval from the committee chairs.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, this is my bill. It's an appropriations bill, and I do have approval from Senators Rude and Senator Ingebrigtsen.
Discussion on the Dibble motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion prevails. Senator Bigham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that Senate File 2106 be withdrawn from the Committee on State Government Finance, Policy, and Elections, be given its second reading and placed on general orders.
Senator Bigham, please confirm that this is your bill and that you have approval from the committee chair.
It is my bill, and I just checked my text messages, and I have not received permission.
Okay, discussion on the Bigham motion. Senator Johnson.
Mr. President, I recommend members vote no on this.
Mr. President.
Senator Bigham.
Thank you. Members, this is a Safe at Home technical bill. There is no associated fiscal note. It was stripped down in civil law in our committee unanimously. It passed unanimously, not only on that committee, but in 2 House committees. This is not a political bill. This is not a controversial bill. It has been heard in relevant committee here in the Senate, passed again with unanimous support. Members, the Safe at Home program is our state's address confidentiality program for people with very high safe needs. People who fear for their safety, like victims of domestic violence and stalking, but also members of law enforcement. Think of our police officers, our county attorneys, and our parole officers. The changes in this bill will improve the program's effectiveness for those who fear for their safety. It helps serve them better. There's no reason to wait until next year to get this done. An example of what this bill does is it requires participants put their date of birth on the form so that the government entities can protect the right, say, Sally Smith. Bill also allows participants who submit a notice to government entities the ability to decide for themselves what information of their needs be protected. Situations are very specific, and this will afford participants the ability to control who knows and shares what information. This particular change has really been driven by local governments that have employees that need this flexibility to decide for themselves what is and what is not private. Say, a county attorney that needs their information public but not their address. They need to be able to have that protected.
Mr. President.
Mr. President, can I please finish?
Senator Johnson, for what reason do you rise?
Point of order. We're on the motion, not the substance of the bill.
That is correct, Senator Johnson. Senator Bigham, please discuss the motion that's in front of us, please.
I ask members for their support to protect victims of domestic violence and law enforcement heroes. Mr. President, I believe this needs 41 votes. So I ask for a roll call.
A roll call has been requested. Roll call will be granted. Seeing no further discussion. Members, seeing no further discussion, the secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room and the president's office, please come to the chamber to vote. Retiring room and president's office. Members in rooms 323 and 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 323 and 237. And members in room 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Members in room 206. I will call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Lawson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes no.
Ingebrigtsen votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes no.
Anderson votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Coleman votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Pratt votes no.
Pratt votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes no.
Rude votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes no.
Newman votes no. Senator Jasinski.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Westrom votes no.
Westrom votes no. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator
Mr.
Nelson.
President,
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Bingham, for what reason do you rise?
I'd like absentee voters called.
Senator, we have one more vote, Senator Bingham, and Senator Jasinski is just about to announce it. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Nelson votes no.
Nelson votes no. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 31 ayes and 35 nays, the motion does not receive the 41 votes necessary. The motion does not prevail. Remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to Rule 26, I designate the following bills be made for special orders for immediate consideration. Members, the sheet with 4 bills is on your desk.
Members, the first bill up for consideration is number 96 on general orders, Senate File 1018, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I'm waiting for an amendment. I wonder if we could defer that one for a little while and come back to it.
Yep,
Willing to
Senator
take-
Senjum, we will move on to the next bill on general orders. So members will take up number 67 on general orders, House File 1438, Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the amendments made to House File 1438 in the Committee on Rules and Administration in the report adopted March 24th, 2021 pursuant to Rule 45 be stricken.
Discussion on the Benson motion. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senator Benson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The federal government has authorized an expansion of medical assistance matching for reimbursement for COVID vaccination administration, not for the vaccine, but for the people who are administering the vaccine. And the House File 1438 would raise our medical assistance reimbursement rate to the Medicare rate for health professionals who administer the COVID-19 vaccine for FDA-approved emergency use authorization vaccinations within their scope of practice. It expires the first quarter that begins at least 1 year after the last day of the federal public health emergency. And members, the appropriation that was on the Senate file as it came to the floor was deleted by the House because the federal government has moved from a partial match to a 100% match. And so if we have this enacted by April 1st, we will be able to draw down federal match, 100% federal match for Medicare reimbursement rate for vaccine administration.
Discussion on House File 1438. The Secretary will give House File 1438 its third reading.
House File 1438, a bill for an act relating to health care.
Third reading. Final comments on House File 1438. Members, we're on final passage of House File 1438. Seeing no further comments, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, the President's office, in room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Retiring room, President's office, in room 323. Members in rooms 206 and 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 206 and 237. I will call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7, but before I do that, members we're under a roll call vote. Please take your conversations off the Senate floor. We're under a roll call vote. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Pratt votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next bill up for consideration, members, we're going to go back to number 96 on general orders, Senate File 1018, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate File 1018 is a rather simple bill from the standpoint of text. It's simply a repealer bill. It repeals a sunset provision that currently exists in state law relative to gas utilities needing to file rate case documents with the Public Utilities Commission when they are amending, if you will, or changing their gas line system, whether it be a modification, whether it be an extension, and so on and so forth. Each time absent doing this at this point, they need to come back to the Public Utilities Commission and get an extent or get a file a rate case. So we've sunsetted, or at least we've had a provision with state law that lifts that requirement. We just simply want to sunset that and keep it in law as it is, because I think it was enacted in 2007 and it's worked all the way now till 2021. I don't think there's any need for us not just to continue on with state law as it is, and so that lifts that provision. So that's the bill, Mr. President. If there are any questions, happy to try to answer them.
Senator Senjum, did you have an amendment?
I do, unless there are any questions on this one.
Discussion on Senate File 1018, Senator Marty.
Mr. President, Senator Senjum, I just had a question. Why was there a sunset? Because I see we've extended it once. Why was there a sunset on this? And I understand that they've been allowed to recover their infrastructure costs, and they should be, and so on, but the question is, how long are the gas utilities infrastructure things going to continue, and how long do we expect this to continue? That's why I guess I have a little bit of concern about that we're just simply repealing it instead of extending it like we've done before.
Senator Senjum.
Mr. President, Senator Marty, I don't know the precise answer in terms of why this happened when it did, but I would just suggest that the system we have now is working. I don't think they need to come back every 5, 6, 7 years and redo this thing. If we just lift the sunset, if in the future this becomes a problem, why obviously the future legislature can reenact a law that requires those rate cases be filed each time. But for now, I think it's working, and we ought to just lift it and move on.
Senator Marty.
Mr. President, Senator Senjum, I understand the extension of it. I'm not so sure that repealing it, again, I don't know the history. I don't recall the details of why the recovery, there was a limit on that. Obviously, the utilities, the gas utilities can go before the PUC and fight to get things recovered that they feel should be, but this is kind of an automatic thing, it seems to me, and that we've had the sunset on it. We extended the sunset once. I'd feel a lot more comfortable if we would be just simply saying, why don't we extend it another 7 or 10 years? Because I don't think we're going to want to have them continue to recover for infrastructure costs when at a certain point they're not going to be, with the climate issues, it's going to be a serious concern. So I guess I'm wondering, wouldn't it be more appropriate to just extend the deadline right now rather than to remove the sunset?
Senator Senjum.
President, Senator Marty, I would opt for repealing of the sunset and dealing with future issues as future needs require. I don't think we need this anymore. Went through committee. I don't think there's any negative commentary along the lines of not doing this. So, Mr. President, members, I'd urge we'd simply move forward with this.
Senator Marty.
Mr. President, just briefly, I want to at least state the concern about this. I understand what you're doing today is adding another provision onto the bill, a provision that I definitely support. I guess I just have some real concerns about the underlying bill.
Any other discussion on Senate File 1018? Senator Senjum.
Mr. President, with that, then, I would move the A1 amendment.
Senator Senjum offers the A1 amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Senjum moves to amend Senate File number 1018 as follows: page 1 after line 4, insert. This is the A1 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, over the course of the last month or so, there has been a fair amount of discussion, not only within the halls of the legislature, but certainly in the media, about the polar vortex which occurred on or about February 12th. It lasted until the 17th. Most of the effect was in Texas from the standpoint of chaos and unfortunate circumstances as the natural gas lines down there froze, and as other utilities, for reasons which are varied, failed to operate as they should. It put tremendous pressure on the natural gas system all the way up through the central United States. As it is, most gas companies buy in advance about 75% of their gas, but they buy on the so-called spot market about 25%. And as the events of the Texas chaotic experience unfolded, that natural gas, buying on the spot market, that 25% allocation, that got very expensive. A decatherm of natural gas that cost $3 in February 11th of this year, this year, $3 on February 11th. During the period of February 12th to February 17th, cost $231. So enormous price differences there that have nowhere to fall but other than the customers. We're not dealing with the customers today from the standpoint of this bill, Mr. Chairman, or Mr. President, but we're dealing with trying to assist municipal utilities across Minnesota. There are 33 of them which serve about 85 cities. They are in a situation that is rather urgent from the standpoint of needing to pay their suppliers the natural gas that they had to buy during this very, very critical but yet very expensive time. So, Mr. President and members, what this does is it creates a structure where we create a polar vortex account within the Department of Commerce. It's a special fund. We will obviously fund that as proposed within the bill at $15 million. Utilities then will, and this is municipal utilities, not the investor-owned, municipal nonprofit cooperative utilities will then in fact file applications for that money to assist them in their paying of their suppliers for the natural gas, again, that they had to buy and which they have indebtedness for. It's very difficult for municipal entities like natural gas companies to go to the bank and borrow money. We had, Mr. President, members, a Finance Committee meeting this morning. We heard from the Municipal Utility Association on it. It's very difficult from the standpoint of just going down to the bank and getting that money. They've got to file or go through routes of certificates of indebtedness and lots of arduous attorney time and certainly financer time to get that done. And while all municipal utilities don't need this, about 16 of the 32 do. And so, again, this puts into structure a process through the Department of Commerce where loans can be given. These are up to 5-year, no-interest loans through, again, the Department of Commerce to municipal utilities, gas utilities, and with repayments then going to the general fund over the course of that 5 years. So, Mr. President, members, that's the essence of the bill. I think I'll just stop here now. If there are any comments, we can certainly deal with it, but that is part and parcel the essence of the bill.
Further discussion on the A1 amendment, Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. And I want to stress to everyone the urgency of this. And for many members, you may be looking at this and thinking that this is coming out of the blue and why do we need to act on this so quickly? Well, we all remember the stories from back in February with the polar vortex and the disaster that happened in Texas. Thankfully, our systems here in Minnesota did not fail. No one was without heat, no one was without electricity. But because of the way our municipals operate and the way they purchase their gas, we heard the incredible increase in cost that they incurred for what they do not pre-purchase. And for the last month, those of us who are on the Energy Committee have had hearings. We had a joint hearing with the other body discussing what can we do to help these groups out. And we knew that the municipals needed help in a very short term. We finally got the details together. That is why this bill is here and here today. And the urgency is that because we're on break next week, we have to get this done so that the municipals, as they're preparing to send out their bills to their customers, know what they're facing and do not have to send out bills to customers for $600 or more. There are a number of other things that we're looking at and addressing on how we can help individuals and businesses with these huge costs. And I believe there are also many investigations happening around price gouging. Those will all take time, and we have a lot of time that we can watch that, see what happens, and deal with that. But these municipals do not have that time. They need us to act today so that they can follow through, make sure their customers know what's happening, and they can make their plans accordingly. So, members, I sure hope you're willing to support this to help out these municipals. They just do not have the funds available, and especially immediately, to make sure that they can cover this cost. And I'm hoping you will support the bill today. Thank you.
All right, members, I have a lengthy list that is starting to develop. Next is Senator Senjum. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would offer the A3 amendment to the A1 amendment.
Senator Senjum offers the A3 amendment to the amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Senjum moves to amend the Senjum amendment to Senate File Number 1018 as follows. Page 1, line 23, after section insert. This is the A3 amendment.
To the A3 amendment to the amendment, Senator St. John.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, this amendment simply deals with a couple of items that arose in discussion this morning on this subject, on this bill within the Finance Committee. One of the items, Mr. President, would be to sunset the polar vortex account, loan account, at the conclusion of this program. In other words, after the last loan is given, the loan account sunsets, it exists no more. The other provision within this amendment suggests that the Department of Commerce have up to $150,000 to administrate the program, working with utilities, getting applications, making decisions about loan allocations and so on. Again, to limit that amount of money out of the 15 million, 150,000 up to that would be appropriated for administrative costs within the Department of Commerce. That is the amendment, Mr. President.
Discussion on the A3 amendment to the amendment. Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion prevails. The amendment to the amendment is adopted. So members, we are back on the A1 amendment as amended. Further discussion. Senator Weber. Senator Weber, make sure the microphone's on there, please. There you go. Senator Weber.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to comment that on a situation even in my district, we hear tales about the increased costs for residential units and what have you. But I think we have to understand that this recent increase affects a lot more than just residential customers. I had a school district contact me with the 13 grades. They have probably an enrollment between 600 and 650 students, and their normal gas bill for last month would have typically been somewhat under $10,000, and the bill they received totaled $93,000. Now, we understand that the complications of the pricing system and what have you are more than what we can deal with in one simple bill. But at least in the initial element here, while there will be probably additional legislation that may come from a national level to deal with the pricing structure as it occurred, we also have to make sure that we can assist our municipals in providing some type of a payback process for their customers that doesn't put everyone in a financial bind. And so with that, Mr. President, I'd just like to speak in favor of the amendment and the bill in general.
Next, for discussion on Senate File 1018, we have Senator Dames, followed by Senator Frentz. Senator Dames.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and members. I want to rise in support of the A1 amendment as amended along with the underlying bill. If you are in a community that is having this issue, which many of us are, it's very important to get this passed, and it is an urgent bill that needs to be passed. These costs arose very unexpectedly. Not only do they affect individuals, they affect the educational institutions, they affect businesses, and this is a major issue. So I'd like to thank Senator St. John for bringing this bill and urge people to vote green, vote on the amendment on the underlying bill, as this is important to get this done today. Thank you.
Members, we're on the A1 amendment as amended. Senator Frentz.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I want to start by thanking Senator St. John for bringing this forward. We do have an urgency that our municipal gas utilities need us to address, and we have to do it. The timing has already been covered, but the gist of it is our body has to respond to emergencies quickly. And by passing this legislation, we'll be sending a message with this revolving loan fund to our municipal utilities that we are there for you at a time when they really need it. We also have a larger issue, which has been touched on here, but which I want to talk about, which is the impact of this natural gas price spike on Minnesota ratepayers. The Public Utilities Commission, in a joint House and Senate Energy Committee meeting, testified that $485 million is the impact of the natural gas price spike on Minnesota ratepayers, and that is just the residential ratepayers. This body is going to have to take action to protect those ratepayers, all Minnesota ratepayers, low income, middle class, everybody. And it will also involve us addressing commercial, residential, and industrial. For that reason, Mr. President, I'd like to offer the A4 amendment.
Senator Frantz offers the A4 amendment to the amendment. The Secretary will report the amendment.
Senator Frantz moves to amend the Senjum amendment to Senate File Number 1018 as follows. Page 2 after line 30, insert. This is the A4 amendment.
To the amendment, Senator Frantz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, this bill came through committee and has been introduced in the House talking about $100 million to protect Minnesota ratepayers. The timing is different from the municipal utilities, and I offer this amendment first so that we can all start thinking about how we're going to protect these Minnesotans who face these bills. It has been estimated that the impact of this natural gas price spike on a typical family might be $400 to $600. That's a lot of money for a working family. What the bill does is provide relief for municipal utilities. What this amendment would do is provide another $100 million to protect Minnesota ratepayers in a plan that's been worked on by the Public Utilities Commission. Among the basic features are that it would protect low-income Minnesotans. It's a formula that allows us to determine who is an eligible party and provide them a rate credit. That's a good thing. I have been a part of discussions, as have many of you, in the last 48 hours about where's this $100 million going to come from. We have a general fund, we have a reserve, we have the American Rescue Plan money, which we're still learning about. And I don't propose that we reach an answer on this $100 million today, but I'm hoping that members of both parties will pledge to work to find a solution to protect these Minnesota ratepayers, not only from the initial impact, which is apparently going to be in September, but to allow it to be spread out to diminish as much as possible the impact on regular working families and their household budgets. And with that, Mr. President, I would withdraw the A4 amendment.
Senator Frantz withdraws the A4 amendment to the amendment. Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Frantz and members, I do appreciate that you are highlighting an area that I think we need to figure out if there's a way to go through it. We're actually trying to get that $15 million done before the break because we know that it's time sensitive. I've talked to the other body leaders on both sides of the aisle. They're going to have to figure out whether they can get this done or not, but I do think if we had added that, then there'd be no chance. But what Senator Frantz has brought up, I think, is clearly something that we're looking at as we look at where the federal stimulus money is coming, what can we do with it, and I do appreciate that Senator Frantz has highlighted that.
Mr. President, just a quick
All right,
comment.
members, Senator Senjum.
Thank you so much, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Gazelka. But just to offer to Senator Frantz, I would say this is the beginning of the story. And there's a lot of story left on this one. I don't think there's any question about it. We just, I think, need to understand it better. We need to understand what they might do federally about it. We need to understand what the PUC comes up with in their investigation. There's a lot of aspects, I think, that we need to understand better, and fully intend to do that over the next couple of months. But for today, I appreciate you withdrawing the amendment. I appreciate you bringing it up. Senator Frantz, the number I've heard is actually $900 million, a $900 million bump. And that is pretty significant to citizens of Minnesota, no question about it. So we'll be looking at it, rest assured. Thank you.
All right, members, just so everybody's clear, we're on the A1 amendment as amended. Senator Frantz had withdrawn his A4 amendment, so we're on the A1 amendment as amended. Are there any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. Members, we are now on Senate File 1018 as amended. Any further discussion? Senator Marty.
Mr. President, I'm glad we are addressing the muni issue and the price spikes from the polar vortex. I think it's urgent that we do that. I do want to and I am supporting the bill with that on it. I do want to express concerns, however, because again, the the utilities, the extension in the underlying bill, the extending of the ability of utilities to recover the gas infrastructure costs directly is something they don't need. They do have the ability to recover it through rate cases. We extended it short term, or at least relatively short term, once before. I think that would be an appropriate step. I do have concerns that given the future of gas, that we are not likely to be wanting to have that happen on a long-term basis. So I express real concerns about the underlying bill, but I do plan to vote for it because of the amendments, because of the A1 amendment, which is very much needed in many parts of the state.
Further discussion on Senate File 1018 as amended. Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
Senate File Number 1018, a bill for an act relating to energy.
Third reading. Members' final comments on the bill. Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, thank you for the discussion this morning. Thank you for paying attention to this important issue, because it is, and again, I believe, as I said earlier, it's the beginning of the story, but it's an important beginning because our municipal utilities almost desperately need our help right now. We get this out the door before we leave on recess. That would be fantastic, I think, from the standpoint of doing the good work of the Minnesota Senate, as well as from the standpoint of helping greatly the municipal utilities across Minnesota that had debts. They have debts, and they need to pay them, and they need to figure out how to do this. This low-interest loan program will help them a lot. Thank you so much, Mr. President.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 1018. Seeing no further comments, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, the President's office, and room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Retiring room, President's office, and room 323. Members in rooms 237 and 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 237 and 206. I'll call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Pratt votes aye.
Pratt votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill up for consideration is number 14 on general orders, House File 333, Senator Duckworth.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate it. Members, this is a bipartisan bill. A lot of work has been done on this by members of both parties that predates me, and I want to acknowledge their efforts and contributions regarding this legislation. Also, I'd like to thank co-authors Senators Dames, Draheim, Eichhorn, and Franzen, as well as the members of the Commerce Committee for sending this bill to the floor. It's also been unanimously passed in the House. This bill safeguards and protects our seniors while providing them flexibility and options regarding reverse mortgages. We certainly don't want to see them taken advantage of, and it allows folks to catch and prevent what are often heartbreaking situations that really could have been avoided. This bill allows folks to take out a reverse mortgage to authorize a third-party designee, oftentimes a child, to receive copies of communications from the loan servicer regarding delinquencies, defaults, and unfulfilled obligations that could result in a foreclosure. It can be a sensitive topic, but as people advance in age, sometimes their health and memory are impacted in ways that cause them to unintentionally miss or disregard a payment. If that were to happen and the person has a designee that was alerted, well, that would allow for an opportunity of a loved one to step in and help before the situation becomes too serious to rectify. This is a great common sense bipartisan effort to work together on behalf of our seniors, and I would greatly appreciate member support of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Discussion on House File 333. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 333, a bill for an act relating to commerce.
Third reading. Members, any final discussion on the bill? We're on final passage of House File 333. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, President's office, and room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Retiring room, President's office, and room 323. Members in rooms 237 and 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 237 and 206. I will call on Senator Frentz to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye.
Senator Eakin
Members, we are
votes
under a
aye.
roll call vote. Please take your discussions off the floor.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye. Can you please repeat Senator Eakin's vote, Senator Frentz?
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Again, Senator Herr votes aye. Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frentz.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Pratt votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill up for consideration is number 35 on general orders, House File 652, Senator Curran.
Thank you, Mr. President. Happy to present House File 652. What the bill does is it's a recommendation out of the Opioid Advisory Task Force. And what it does is it prohibits life insurance companies from utilizing a prescription for an opioid antagonist as a sole purpose for denying insurance coverage. So what this does, there are many people around the state, and what we don't want to do is dissuade good Samaritans and others from getting a prescription for an opioid antagonist in lieu of putting their life insurance at risk. It's a bipartisan support, and it's a good bill. I urge a green vote. Thank you.
Discussion on House File 652. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 652, a bill for an act relating to insurance.
Third reading. Members, any final discussion on House File 652? We're on final passage of House File 652. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, President's office, and room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Room 323, President's office and retiring room. Members in rooms 206 and 237, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 206 and 237. I will call on Senator Jasinski to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Pratt votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eakin votes aye.
Eakin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frantz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres Ray votes aye. Senator Frantz.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. The next bill up for consideration is number 15 on general order, Senate File 304, Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, Senate File 304 has to do with the confidential informant. It creates a model policy which police departments, other law enforcement agencies across Minnesota will use as they, into the future, use confidential informants for purposes of law enforcement. Mr. President, members, this bill is in memory of a young man in Orinoco, Minnesota by the name of Matthew Klaus. His parents, John and Denise Klaus, came to me perhaps a year and a half ago to talk to me about this bill and what they perceived to be a need within the law enforcement community for this. Matthew had been a confidential informant in Rochester, working with the Rochester Police Department on drug buys. He himself had gone through an addiction. He was working his way out of it, but again, working with the department in Rochester on drug buys and arrests, and not necessarily on arrests, but certainly leading to arrests. And during that whole process, Matthew himself became a victim of a heroin overdose and passed away. And as the Klaus family began looking at this a little bit more with the police department in Rochester and understanding the whole confidential informant structure a little bit better, they became convinced that more could have been done to recognize Matthew's affliction and perhaps the afflictions of many more people across Minnesota that also are involved in being confidential informants. And so they set forth, working with myself. We in turn worked with the, I speak to Representative Quam and I, working with the Post Board, working with the sheriff's agencies, with law enforcement, with judiciary, judges, county attorneys, things like this, work to model, if you will, in this case, a statute which would lead to a model state policy for the use, again, by law enforcement agencies and how they use confidential informants. And so this simply, and again, it's been agreed upon by all involved agencies, and all involved agencies will work towards development of this model policy. But it involves a litany of items, maybe about 8 or 10 items, which a policy will involve, I think. And as we do this, then there'll be a training component to this bill. But law enforcement agencies across Minnesota will better perhaps understand the issues related to confidential informants as they relate in particular to drug addicts and how they use them. And I think in the end will be certainly a much more solid approach to this use as opposed to right now as they're used by agencies across Minnesota. It's every agency either does or does not have their own policy. So this simply adopts a policy. Doesn't adopt the policy, it adopts the creation of a policy which will be used across Minnesota by law enforcement and how they use confidential informants. So, Mr. President, that's the bill. I'd be happy to stand for questions.
Discussion on Senate File 304, Senator Bigham. Any further discussion? The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
Senate File number 304, a bill for an act relating to public safety.
Third reading. Senator Bigham.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate File 304. This is a really good bill. CRIs are a very integral part of law enforcement's job to deal with drug trafficking, human trafficking, organized crime, and this really brings all the stakeholders together to make sure that we are protecting those CRIs and really allowing law enforcement to do a very good job at keeping our community safe, getting intel, and doing their job. So I urge a green vote on Senate File 304.
Any further discussion on Senate File 304? Senator Senjum.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, members, for allowing me to present this bill today. It's an important bill. It's one we don't think about a lot, but again, as it was pointed out, confidential informants are an important part of our law enforcement structure. We need them, but we need to take care of them as we use them. That's what this bill attempts to do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Members, we're on final passage of Senate File 304. Seeing no further discussion, the Secretary will take the roll. Members in the retiring room, President's office, and room 323, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 323, President's office, and retiring room. Members in rooms 237 and 206, please come to the chamber to vote. Rooms 206 and 237. I will call on Senator Jasinski to report the votes of the members voting under Rule 40.7. Senator Jasinski.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Ingebrigtsen votes aye.
Ingebrigtsen votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Anderson votes aye.
Anderson votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Coleman votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Pratt votes aye.
Pratt votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
Senator Rude votes aye.
Rude votes aye. Senator Jasinski.
And thank you, Mr. President. Senator Newman votes aye.
Newman votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Carlson votes aye.
Carlson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Champion votes aye.
Champion votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Clausen votes aye.
Clausen votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Eaton votes aye.
Eaton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Ekin votes aye.
Ekin votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Fateh votes aye.
Fateh votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Herr votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Isaacson votes aye.
Isaacson votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Latz votes aye.
Latz votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Newton votes aye.
Newton votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Rest votes aye.
Rest votes aye. Senator Frentz.
Senator Torres Ray votes aye.
Torres-Ray votes aye. Senator French.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
Wickland votes aye. All members having voted who have the desire to vote, the Secretary will close the roll. There being 66 ayes and 0 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Next, we'll move to the 13th order of business. Without objection, the following senator will be excused. Senator Klein all day. Announcements of Senate interest. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today we celebrate the 200-year anniversary of the declared independence of the nation of Greece. Independence which ignited the revolution which freed the Greek people from 5 centuries of occupation under the Ottoman Empire. Americans provided humanitarian assistance during the Greek War of Independence because they understood that freedom, self-governance, and the ability to determine one's own destiny are values worth sacrificing one's life to defend. The issue of Greek independence is personal to me. My family hails from Katsirou, a small village of 700 in the Messenia region of the Peloponnese, north of the port city of Kalamata. Throughout my life, I spent many summer weekends with my Greek relatives and friends at the Greek festivals hosted by St. George's Greek Orthodox Church in St. Paul and St. Mary's Greek Orthodox Church in Minneapolis. Together, we enjoyed Greek cuisine, Hellenic music, traditional dancing, and the bustling marketplace. My experiences taught me to love my heritage and to appreciate the history of my ancestors. Most importantly, I came to understand the importance of fighting for the preservation of liberty here and around the world. Those rights which we hold as self-evident, the rights to life, liberty, self-determination, free will, and self-governance, were first forged by the ancient Greeks hundreds of years ago. The Greeks believed in the magnificence of the democratic process, and they were willing to die in its defense. Thomas Jefferson called ancient Greece the light which led ourselves out of Gothic darkness. Democracy is stronger than one country, leader, or political party. Democracy is not guaranteed, but rather it is a work in progress that must be actively maintained day after day. The preservation of democracy does not come easily. The preservation of democracy takes hard work. Today, a number of institutions continue this hard work by preserving Hellenic culture and advancing democratic values. The American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association, founded a century ago by Greek immigrants, promotes Hellenic values across the country and around the globe and hosts 4 local chapters right here in Minnesota. Elected officials in the U.S. of Greek heritage who are members of the World Hellenic Interparliamentary Association advocate for policies to advance the mutual interests of Greece and the U.S. Religious institutions like St. George's, St. Mary's, and the 12 Holy Apostles Greek Orthodox Church in Duluth make important contributions to the modern-day preservation of Hellenic cultural values and inspire young leaders to find meaning in their heritage. Also, the Greek Consul General in Chicago, currently Katerina Demikis, also serves an important role in maintaining strong bilateral relations between our 2 great nations because we understand that a threat to democracy anywhere is a threat to democracy everywhere. The Greek flag flies above the Capitol today because today all free women and men around the globe are citizens of Greece. Now, Mr. President, with your permission, Senator McEwen will share just a few parts of Senate Resolution 42, which was introduced yesterday.
Senator McEwen, and members, we don't read resolutions on the floor, but you can summarize the resolution. Senator McEwen. Please make sure your microphone is on there. All right.
I didn't realize we have a little turn on. Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. We do have a thriving and proud Greek community in Duluth, and having grown up there, I was aware of just the robustness of that community, and I am just delighted to join in this resolution today. We do have the Senate resolution celebrating March 25th 2021 as the 200th anniversary of Greek Independence Day and celebrating democracy in Greece and the United States. And I'll just sum up as the President has instructed me, but the resolution ends, whereas in support of the Greece 2021 Committee established by the government of Greece, the United States Mission in Greece has launched a campaign to celebrate the bicentennial of the independence of Greece and the 200 years of friendship between the United States and Greece. And whereas it is proper and desirable for the United States to celebrate this anniversary with the Greek people and to reaffirm the democratic principles from which these two great nations were born, therefore be it resolved by the Senate of the State of Minnesota that it hereby celebrates March 25th, 2021 as the 200th anniversary of Greek independence and reaffirms Minnesota's abiding commitment to the magnificent principles of democracy and religious freedom. So, thank you.
Any further announcements of Senate interest? Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. We're near our break, and it's certainly a time to refresh, and for many, celebrating Passover and Easter is an important opportunity to spiritually refresh as well. But we'll come back and we'll race to the finish line. And so that's make sure that you have the opportunity to get refreshed over this next break, because it'll be a lot of work as we move to the end. And Mr. President, once we adjourn, I just want to point out that Nicole has a birthday tomorrow, if I got that right. Oh, I'm sorry, Colleen. And I want to say about Colleen that she makes my job as leader and many leaders before me, makes it smooth, makes everything work. And Colleen, I want to just say how much I appreciate all the work that you do. And once we recess or adjourn, Mr. President, I think we should sing happy birthday. But with that, Mr. President, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Tuesday, April 6th at 12 noon.
I'm sure she'll appreciate that very much, Senator Gazelka. Senator Gazelka moves that the Senate do now adjourn until Tuesday, April 6th at 12 noon. All those in favor say aye. Opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is adjourned. Happy birthday.